evening and welcome to the Press Box. I'm Vanessa Johnson, and for the next 30 minutes, I'll be your host. With me are Reynolds and Kenny Sharp from Dirty Owls. How you guys doing?
Doing all right. Now, wait a minute. I wasn't here last week, and then all of a sudden I come back. There's no jerseys on the wall. My Georgia helmet's not here. Now, what happened? I leave for 1 week. No,
you like Georgia
right.
Tech. That's what it is.
Nah.
Some of my friends from Tech stole that Georgia helmet.
Oh, man. You must have paid them some good money then.
Okay. I'd like to remind our viewers that this is a live show, so if you have any questions that you want to ask, give us a call at 873-6713. Okay, guys, let's talk baseball. What's going to happen? Are we going to have a strike? And if we do, how will it affect the pennant races?
Well, Kenny, a week ago, or rather weeks or even months ago, I felt that we were going to have a strike. There was no doubt about it. I think history repeats itself. And when you have the strike, you have no idea how long this is going to be. And this is like musical chairs. You got 4 teams fighting for 3 playoff spots in the National League. You got Atlanta, Montreal, Houston, and Cincinnati. And you just don't know when the music's going to stop, meaning that you don't know how long the strike is going to be. So that's what I really look at this as a game of musical chairs here. And really, these managers and general managers have had their hands tied, and it's created a variable that they have no control over. This is going to be a tough break for a couple of ball teams. I can remember in 1981 what the strike did. Cincinnati had the best record overall of anyone in the National League, but did not make the playoffs at all because of the split season. And you may have a team really get hurt by the strike again this year, Kenny.
Yeah, I agree. The strike is it's an unknown quantity right now. They're saying perhaps if the strike does happen, it will only last 2 or 3 weeks, but if it isn't settled in 2 or 3 weeks, it could wipe out the playoffs. It could wipe out the beginning of next season. They're talking about 1995. The owners, if they don't get this thing settled right away, are going to really take a hard line against the players this time, I think. They've lost in every single strike before this. The players have gotten everything they wanted, almost. And the teams that are going to be hurt, I think, Kansas City is one in the American League who's really on fire. They're red hot. They're playing their best ball of the season. They got a shot to take a run at Cleveland, who's lost Albert Bell for 6 games and has some little bit questionable starting pitching now that Mark Clark is hurt. And I think they really had a chance to run at Cleveland, maybe even catch them. But they're going to be hurt by this strike a lot, I think.
I agree with that. I think Kansas City is a team that's hurt by this the most. There's no doubt in my mind. There were something like, 4.5, 5 games out of first place. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, this team has won something like 9 out of their last 10. This team is on fire, and they're playing really well. I think they're definitely the team that's most hurt by this. Another team that's hurt is Baltimore, just simply because of time now. New York's 8 games up. What is it, 8 games? They're 8 games up. And if you sit there and cut the season down, Baltimore's not going to have hardly any time to catch these guys. And not only that, Baltimore may find themselves not getting a wild card either because Chicago and Cleveland are playing so well. So I think that could really hurt them. I think the other club that it hurts a lot is Houston. Houston is the 4th team out. Well, they're the 4th team in the National League. They're the ones sitting out right now. And if they could ever get their pitching together, get Pete Harners back in that rotation and win some games for them, I think Houston might sneak into the playoffs and win that division. I think the Reds, I just don't know how the Reds have been holding on this year other than their bullpen and their great hitting. I think the Reds are hitting something like 290 as a team right now. And I just don't know if they could keep that up over the whole season. But now if you shorten the season, I really think that helps Cincinnati a lot.
Well, look what happened with Houston when the strike date was announced, which was Thursday. The strike date was announced as August 12th.
Right.
Houston immediately got swept by the Dodgers and lost last night to the Rockies. They've lost 4 in a row since the strike date was announced. Maybe the pressure's getting into them a little bit. This is a shortened pennant race now. There's 10 days left until this strike date comes up. And the teams have to look at this like this is a pennant race. This is coming to the end of the season, and you have to have yourself in playoff position to be ready. Houston might be choking a little bit. They're not hitting aside from Bagwell, who's having a monster season, but he's the only one right now who's going good for them.
Well, I think another issue here is their record against the Rockies. Ever since the Rockies came in the league, I think Houston has lost something like 4 out of 15 to them.
Or won 4 out of 15.
I mean, right,
yeah.
Won 4 out of 15 against them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a phone call. Thank you for calling, caller. You're on the air. Hello?
Hello?
You're on the air.
Turn to channel 12.
Okay.
It is Channel 12.
Maybe they wanted to hear themselves on TV.
Okay. Well, you guys mentioned the teams that would be hurt the most. I think Cleveland would be hurt the most because they haven't been in a pennant race for years. And who do you think it will help?
I think the team that it helps the most definitely is New York, the Yankees. Here they are. They got the biggest lead right now. as far as I'm concerned, New York is really clicking their heels and emptying the waste paper baskets now. I think this team is a shoo-in for the playoffs now, depending on how long the strike is. That's going to be a tough team to beat. I never thought that this team would be playing this well. They're batting almost 290 as a team, and the cocaine man, Steve Howe, who has got numerous chances thanks to the Players Union, has a double digits in saves, and they have another player, a right-hander. Now, I forgot his name, but they got a right-handed stopper as well, Wickman, who's got about 6 or 7 saves. So they have 2 guys that they can go to in their bullpen, and their starters, Melito Perez, to go along with Jimmy Key, Jim Abbott, have had really good years, and I did not think that New York would do this. But they have.
Let's give some credit here.
Buck Showalter as well.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. Let's give some credit to Buck Showalter, who takes this Yankee job, and we know, the lifespan of a Yankee manager under Steinbrenner.
Right.
He's had about 17 since he's owned the team. He's only owned the team 20 years. Showalter uses everybody. Everybody on that team gets a chance to play. They're always ready to play, and all of them are contributing. Nobody's having a bad year on this team. Just the same, nobody's having a monstrous season aside from Paul O'Neill. So everybody contributes. Everybody knows what their role is, and he has just done an unbelievable job there.
When you look at this Yankees lineup, you see 5 guys in double figures with home runs. Neither one of them are Wade Boggs or Don Mattingly, yet they have great batting averages. Danny Tartabull is having, quote-unquote, a bad year, batting only about 260, which is one of the lower averages on the team, yet he leads the team with O'Neill with 18 home runs. This team has got a lot of players who can beat you. Stanley, the catcher, is another player who I think has been on fire since the All-Star break. He's getting his average up over 290. He's hitting a lot of home runs now, and I think that maybe the strike is going to hurt him personally because he's on a tear.
Right. And how about their other catcher, Leyritz, who nobody's ever heard of and has 60 RBIs with double-digit home runs, 13 home runs. The Yankees are a real good team, and the team that's chasing them, Baltimore, now they got the new owner. This guy seems to be a loose cannon. He's already talking about firing Johnny Oates, trying to lure Tony La Russa into Baltimore. He wants to get another general manager. He wants to bring Danny Jackson in. His payroll is going to be the tops in baseball, and if he ends up not winning, he is going to clean house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy. First of all, I think you can't expect New York to have years like this constantly, year after year. Although you can't expect Toronto to be this bad either.
Yeah.
But I certainly think Baltimore is one of the better teams around, and they have really good young players like Hammonds and people like that, where they're going to be around for a long time. And Baltimore, I don't think it's going to be short on money. They sell out their facility all the time. They have a pretty good TV market. I would not make wholesale changes there.
Well, that's what he's talking about if this team doesn't win the division. And right now, 8 games out, they're not going to win the division, strike or not.
Yep.
Besides the bullpen, what are some of the other weaknesses of the Braves?
Well, you want to hit on that first?
Well, obviously they have no team speed, but I'm not necessarily think that's a weakness if they can keep hitting home runs. I like power clubs. I always have. I think you can win with power alone. The bullpen is such a glaring weakness, but let's take a look at what was supposed to be the Braves' strength, which is starting pitching. Right now, Smoltz is awful.
Yeah.
It's like, he's terrible. He's had one good outing out of his last 5 or 6. Avery maybe has more on his mind than baseball, which is his son, which is understandable, but his ERA is 4.5 right now. The second best starter so far has been Merker. He was supposed to be number 5. I'm not real worried about Glavine. I think he'll win, and Maddox, of course, is the best. But you have to look at Smoltz and Avery here, and that's a weakness for the Braves right now. I mean, it was supposed to be their strength, and their starting pitching is not as good as it was supposed to be.
When I look at this team, in previous years, they seem to find ways to win. Now I think there's different parts of the team that find ways to lose. I think the bullpen finds ways to lose. I think your starting pitching, like Kenny mentioned, they'll get some bad outings. I think the defense will sit there and find a way for you to lose. In the Sunday game against Philadelphia, the Braves gave up a big inning early in the game because they didn't know how to field a bunt by the pitcher. First of all, you got men on first and second, nobody out. You know the man's going to bunt. He bunts it in front of the plate. Yeah, it's an okay bunt, and they don't know how to field it, and they botch it. These little things that lead to big innings for other clubs, they find ways to lose games. I think team speed is definitely an issue here. I think that's one reason why they're hitting into a lot of double plays this year. And you've had to see Bobby Cox doing a lot more hit-and-run plays with people like Fred McGriff and using Jeff Blauser for that. I think another issue here are those 2 guys leading off. Blauser is having a mediocre year at around 260, and he's been hurt. And whenever the other team throws a left-hander, you got to put in Dave Gallagher, apparently, according to the Bobby Cox's Bible. and here it is. That means you got a guy batting 215 leading off. And
Yeah.
so what you have is guys that are not having good years, and you need these people to get on base before Fred McGriff and David Justice. Plain and simple, they're not doing it, and that's why they're not scoring many runs.
That's right. I'd really like to see Tarasco or Klesko in there against lefties, because Gallagher's a bit player at best. He shouldn't be playing at all, really, just to spell the outfielders, pinch hitting, pinch running, whatever, but he shouldn't be starting.
Well, Bobby Cox's philosophy is that, well, these are young left-handed players, and I don't want them facing left-handed pitching until they can handle it. But Fred McGriff and David Justice know how to handle left-handed pitching. Kenny, why do they know how to handle it?
Oh, because they've been doing it for a long time. They've had a lot of practice.
They got to face it, exactly.
Yeah.
You're never going to be able to hit left-handed pitching if you're a left-handed hitter if your manager doesn't let you go out there and do it. I think he needs to bite the bullet and go ahead and let him do it.
I agree. Well, we have a phone call. Thank you for calling, caller. You're on the air.
Yes. My name is Eric, and I want to know if they do have a strike and it does be resolved, will they have a postseason?
Well, I think, okay, thanks for the phone call. And I think that's one of those questions as it depends. It depends on how long the strike is. If it's only a couple of weeks, they just may shorten the season and then just continue the playoffs as the way they are. Right now, the playoffs are going to be so long anyway because of the structure you have on television and with the expansion of the leagues now.
Right.
I don't think TV is going to allow that to be cut back any because that's where they're going to get most of their money. That's what they want to avoid. So if it's only a couple of weeks, I think they'll just shorten the season. You may see maybe a 154-game season like they had back in the old days, but I think it's going to be less.
Yeah, it'll be less, I think. It should be probably 3 weeks. Everyone says 3 weeks, and if that would be the case, it would be a 140-game season or 142-game season, somewhere around there, and they would just have the playoffs as usual. I don't think they'd add any more games.
That's amazing. Just think how that's going to affect the performances you've been having of individual single seasons, such as Matt Williams, who's on a torrid pace. He's got something like 41 home runs right now. The way he's going, there's no doubt in my mind that he could hit 60. This guy is just so strong, and he doesn't seem to wilt late in the year like a lot of the other players do. And he's got 2 good left-handed bats that he's right in between them now.
Yeah.
Now, if you can keep Darryl Strawberry off the drugs and all that and have him concentrate on baseball, then he's a pretty good player. And what's amazing about Strawberry is you've got a man that big that has great bat speed and can hit you a lot of home runs. And right now, he's showing what he can do.
Yeah. I think the other player that's going to be hurt by a shortened season is Bagwell, who's already set all the Houston records for home runs and RBIs in a single season. He's hitting 365, 37 homers and 107 RBIs. The team record is 110 RBIs. This is August 2nd. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got 2 months. He'll end up with 48 to 50 home runs and maybe 160 RBIs, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, maybe the most since George Foster on the Big Red Machine.
Right.
Providing that we don't have a strike, do you think the Braves will catch up?
Oh, I think there's always a possibility, but the big issue here is the starting pitching. Can Tom Glavine pitch more effectively and get his ERA under 4? They need to get quality starts out of Steve Avery, and John Smoltz has got to get out of this post-All-Star slump. He's been awful since the All-Star break. And once they possibly might get those guys going, I mean, you have 5 really good pitchers. Montreal's got great pitching. Their ERA for a team is the same as the Braves, and they have really good starters. You got not only Kent Hill, you have Facero, you got Henry, and Henry just cuffed the Braves the last time he pitched against them. Their staff right now is better than ours.
I agree. I said that on last week's show. This Pedro Martinez, the young dart thrower, and they got those 2 flamethrowers in the bullpen.
Yeah.
So Montreal's pitching is as good or better than the Braves is.
You know, going back, I want to hit on something else here. Another team that's going to be really happy about a strike, and I just thought about this when we're talking about individual players having great years, it was Andres Galarraga, and now here he is, he's hurt. And so the strike would come at a perfect time for the Rockies, who are still in a pennant race in that crummy National League West. And this is just nothing but healing time for him to get him back in the lineup as soon as possible. Colorado's another team that this helps.
Yep. Colorado is definitely helped by this strike. Now let's talk about, everybody talked about in the beginning of the year how awful the American League West was and how somebody with an under 500 is going to win that division. Let's take a look at the National League West, which is just as bad.
Right.
Well, I don't think it's quite as bad. I think the Giants are going to finish over 500, and I think they're going to win that division.
Well,
that was my pick at the beginning of the year, and I stayed with that. I just felt that team had good enough pitching. And despite all the injuries that they've had, San Francisco's had very good pitching.
Well, you went out on a limb with that pick. Giants to win the West in the beginning of the year.
Well.
Won 103 games last year.
Yeah, that really was going out on a limb. I'll have to stop taking so many chances, Kenny.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Dodgers. They're falling and falling and falling. Where are they going?
Well, I'll tell you what, one reason they're falling, if the people in Atlanta feel that their bullpen is bad, they haven't seen nothing yet. Los Angeles has got about the worst bullpen in the world. These guys, I mean, Tom Lasorda just has to make crazy decisions with the starting pitchers. For one game, Tom Candiotti was in a game late. The first two men got on base, and he still did not go to his bullpen. He let him stay in there, and I think he gave up a bases-clearing double before he finally pulled his pitcher. That's just simply because he has no faith or confidence in his bullpen, and to be honest with you, I can't blame him.
Yeah, they tried Dryford, the rookie, in the beginning of the year, and he really got hit hard. He's down in Double-A ball now. Didn't even go down to Albuquerque. They sent him down to San Antonio. It's a bunch of retreads out there. If you look at the Dodger bullpen, Roger McDowell is a retread. Jim Gott is a retread. They've got Omar Dahl, who couldn't get anybody out. He's the only left-hander they got down there. Their bullpen is 100 times worse than the Braves. And the Dodgers are a team that the strike helps. If they can hold on for 10 more days and be in the lead in the West when the strike comes, who knows what's going to happen.
When you look at that Los Angeles team, I mean, who would ever thought they would have this much offense? 3 out of their 8 starters are batting over 300. One of the guys with the worst batting averages in the starting lineup is Wallach, who's like the Danny Tartabull of Los Angeles. He's batted around 255, 260, and he has around 20 home runs. I never thought Los Angeles would be hitting this well this year, but that just shows you how much their bullpen is hurting them.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about the Falcons. How about the good and bad of the Falcons win versus San Diego?
Well, when you sit there and you look at the good, I was really surprised at how well Ironman Hayward ran. He averaged around 6 yards a carry, and that's something that the Falcons need. They need to get some type of offensive ground attack. Whether he can do that the whole year, I don't know. I don't know how dependable he's going to be. I like the speedy receiver, Emmanuel. I think he just showed flashes of great speed and caught several passes. But, again, he was doing that against reserves or free agents for San Diego, so you really don't know how good he is. But I tell you one thing, the guy is fast. I mean, you can see that he is fast.
It's really hard to tell, any strengths or weaknesses from the first preseason game. You've got, George played 2 series. First was 3 and out. The second one they got a touchdown, so he looked pretty good. But it's so early; it's really hard to tell. Emmanuel looks like he has good speed, but I still think the loss of 4 of the top 5 receivers from last year is going to hurt this team, especially with the run and shoot.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a phone call. Thank you for calling, Callie on the air.
Am I on the air?
Yes.
I was wondering what happened with Walter Rouse. What happened with Georgia's football this year?
Okay, that's a good question, and thanks for the phone call. Okay, Walter Rouse was the projected starting nose guard at Georgia. And basically, I think that a lot of the players resented him because he didn't work out as hard as the players did in the weight room, and he didn't show that much effort out on the practice field. From what I understand, and I got this information from our sports information assistant, Jeff Richardson. He's always on top of the news with the Dogs. I knew about this last night, that the players just basically asked the coach to ask him to leave, and that's what happened. And what that's going to do is that Georgia is thin on the defensive line, and that just seems to be a tradition as great as the hedges now. They had a signee, Cletitis Hunt from Memphis, that they thought would make it, and then all of a sudden they found out his counselor made a mistake with his SAT or his whatever his test score was. And then, so all of a sudden you think you got one in, you got one out, and then your projected nose guard is out. Georgia may have to play a true freshman, Travis Stroud, out of Dunwoody, right in that nose guard spot. Other possibilities are Tracy Huzzy, who's been in and out of Georgia like a revolving door, who finally, I think, may play his final season. And the other one is Jeff Kaiser out of Statesboro. And he had a broken leg last year, so I don't know how well he's going to recoup after that. Georgia's got a lot of questions on that defensive line.
Yeah, all over the defense.
Well, I think they have some talent in the secondary and some talent at linebacker. It's just a question of coaching and having a defensive coordinator like Richard Bell out there. I mean, you could have great players, and he can sit there and allow other teams to score 30 points a game on you. I think Marianne Campbell will get a hold of those guys and teach them how to play football. But that defensive line, I don't know. It's going to be shaky. They cannot afford injuries.
That's true. Okay, I would like to remind our viewers that this is a live show. So if you have any questions that you want to ask, give us a call at 873-6713. Okay, speaking of college football, it's coming up real soon. Let's evaluate the conferences.
Okay, well, Kenny, what do you want to hit on this week?
Well, we were talking about the Big Ten earlier, so we can start with them.
All right. When I look at the Big Ten, I think of about 3 teams up there at the top. You've got Wisconsin, who's returning 16 players, 9 on offense, and they have a quarterback back. You got Michigan, who's got 15 starters coming back, including Tyrone Wheatley and Todd Collins. And the other team is Penn State, who's got 8 guys on offense coming back, but only 3 on defense. And I think they may be a little questionable there. Joe Paterno is going to have to pull some strings in a very balanced league this year.
Yeah, Penn State, this is a very interesting story this year. This is a team, when you think Penn State, you think defense. This year, you're going to think offense, and you're going to see a lot of games in the 30s with Penn State. They're going to give up a lot of points, but they're going to score a ton. They've got how many starters back on offense?
8.
8 starters back, and all the skill players are back. So, including Kajana Carter, who's an awesome running back, and the starting quarterback Collins is back. So Penn State's going to score a lot of points, but they're also going to give up a lot of points.
Well, when I look at Penn State and I look at their schedule, they got one tough out-of-conference game, and that's a game with Southern Cal at home. Of course, Joe Paterno kept his traditional rivals on the schedule, Temple and Rutgers. So he'll manage to sneak out a couple of wins there and get to play a lot of people and see if there's people who can play football and who can play defense. Paterno will find that out, and I think Penn State's had awfully good recruiting years up in the Northeast. All those guys that grow up there, I mean, Joe Paterno can pick almost anyone that he wants to get.
Yeah.
Well, we have.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, we have a phone call.
Okay.
Thank you for calling, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I was wondering what you guys thought about them moving the volleyball from Cobb County to Athens, Georgia, and I'll just hang up and listen. Thanks.
Thanks for the call. Okay. Who wants to hit on that?
Don't know nothing about it.
Well, they had, of course, the volleyball venue for the Olympics in '96 was scheduled to be in Cobb County, and all the stuff about the homosexual discrimination or whatever in Cobb County, they don't want gays living there and all that stuff. It's the legislators that are coming down with this, and politically, I think it's the right move. You really don't want them picketing and boycotting out there during the Olympic Games,
Exactly.
and it would throw a bad light on our city, I think, if they kept them there. And then you see, of course, the TV would have to cover all these people standing out there with signs and everything. That would eventually happen. That would happen if they kept the volleyball in Cobb County. So I think moving it to Athens is the best move. The finals are in the Omni anyway, so I think it's the smartest thing they could have done.
Plus, it would have overshadowed the Olympics.
Right. And you don't really need any distractions like that during the Olympics.
This is the sports show, not a political show.
Well, the more you sit and talk about sports and read the paper and watch sports, the more politics creeps into it.
And business.
Yeah.
Right. So we were talking about college football.
Right, and with the Big Ten, one thing that also stands out with me here, Vanessa, is that Wisconsin and Penn State don't have to play one another, and that's a big advantage for them. And when you look at the schedules, Penn State has one tough out-of-conference game, Southern Cal. Wisconsin has one tough out-of-conference game, and that's with Colorado. Michigan's out-of-conference schedule has Boston College and Notre Dame on it. And I think they have one more tough opponent on there.
Well,
I think they have 3 very tough out-of-conference games.
Well, I don't know how tough Boston College is going to be this year. Their coach is gone to Jacksonville, and the quarterback, Foley, is gone.
But they got 15 starters coming back.
Well, they got a lot of offensive talent, but even if they have all those starters coming back on defense, is that good or bad?
And a change of coach makes a lot of difference.
The defense was good enough to help them beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, 41-39.
Who I thought was the best team in the country that year, last year.
Yeah, but they still gave up like 40 points, 38 points, won the game, but gave up 39.
I think Wisconsin is going to be the team to beat in this league. Although I think this year you might see some upsets here. I think it's a pretty balanced league with a few teams, and then the ones at the bottom, teams like Iowa and Purdue, and I think Indiana's going to be hurt badly this year because they only have 6 starters coming back, only 2 on offense. 2 on defense.
What about Arizona? How do you think they're going to do?
I think Arizona's going to have an awesome defense, but the thing with Arizona that you have to remember out there in the Pac-10 is that, okay, they have 6 guys coming back on defense, they have 7 coming back on offense. Arizona does not have that consistent of an offense. Sometimes they're really good. They played well at the year. They beat Arizona State on the road last year for the finale. And then, of course, they whitewashed Miami. But I get the feeling in the Fiesta Bowl, Miami's heart really wasn't in that football game.
Well, you talk about Arizona, and we're talking about Sports Illustrated's preseason #1.
Exactly.
And they play. They open the season with Tech right here at Grant Field on a Thursday night, first ESPN game of the season. If Arizona lives up to Sports Illustrated's billing for them, it could be a long night for Tech. That's going to be a good measure, though, for an Arizona team. What kind of pressure is that to be, preseason #1 by Sports Illustrated? That's a lot of pressure on a team that's really unfamiliar with the top 10. unfamiliar with being a headlining program in college football. It's going to be a real good game, I think. Real good test for Arizona. And, of course, an unbelievable test for Tech.
Yeah, and possibly a new Tech quarterback.
Right.
I won't say anything
Okay.
tonight. Who are the dark horses of the league?
In the Big Ten?
Mm-hmm.
When I look at dark horses here, it's got to be Illinois. Illinois has 19 starters coming back, 8 on offense, 11 on defense. Now, this Illinois club started off last year losing badly to a terrible Missouri team, 31-3. They proceeded to have other bad losses. Then they started picking it up. They beat an Iowa team, which was a bowl team last year, 49-3. They went into Ann Arbor and beat Michigan, 24-17. Illinois is a team on the rise that I think could cause a lot of trouble in the conference. They have 2 of the big games at home with Penn State and Michigan, and then they finished the year at Camp Randall at Wisconsin. That final game for Wisconsin at home could determine who might win the Big Ten and go to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, Illinois looks like a real strong team this year. Didn't they also beat Ohio State last year on the road? Oh, no, that was the Michigan game. They caught a pass late.
Yeah,
but anyway,
yeah.
Ohio State looks to be pretty weak this year. This is an annual powerhouse in the Big Ten. I really don't like John Cooper as a coach, and it looks like they're going to struggle this year.
Yeah, only 9 starters coming back, something like 5 on offense, 4 on defense. They lost Dan Wilkinson. I think one of the strengths of Ohio State was to stop the run in the Big Ten just right up the middle, and Wilkinson had a whole lot to do with that. That's going to be a huge hole to fill, and I don't think John Cooper's going to be able to fill it, although he's had some pretty good recruiting classes. You don't replace a guy like Wilkinson. I mean, he was unanimously the #1 pick in the draft last year.
Yep. And Cooper's like Ray Goff almost. Great recruiting grades every year, and his teams never seem to be there at the end. Although they have good early parts of the season, they always seem to fall apart near the end, and I think you can attribute that to Cooper directly.
Well, I could go for that as well, although I don't think he has been recruiting as successfully as Ray Goff has down here. I think that in the state of Ohio, that teams like Michigan and Penn State have come in and taken several of the really good players out of the Catholic leagues up there. So I think this made some of the alumni really upset, but Cooper's landed most of them in the state the last 2 years. And now it's time for them to step up for him, because if they don't, this could be one of those types of years where things get ugly for him in the Big Ten, and he's out.
Yeah, he needs to win this year, and he doesn't have much coming back. It's going to be a struggle for Cooper at Ohio State this year.
I agree.
Let's look at some other conferences like the ACC. What about Florida State?
I don't think there's any doubt. I think it's Florida State and the 8 Dwarves again. North Carolina lost a whole lot, so I don't think they're going to be nearly as good. And you saw that when they actually had to play outside of the conference in their bowl game last year, they got hammered by a crippled-up Alabama team.
Yeah.
I think that Florida State is several levels above everyone else in the league.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Okay. Well, it's been great, guys, and I'm about ready to go to Dirty Al's. What
Go
about
get
you?
a beer.
Okay.
It's on Kenny.
Hey.
Okay, I could go for that. Okay, I'd like to thank you guys and thank our callers and viewers for watching the show. We'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same channel.